Content warning, y'all. We have lots of fun making this podcast, but remember, we watch a lot of R-rated films, use language that reflects that, and joke about heavy topics to create levity around these themes. If that doesn't feel safe or could be triggering, please take care of yourself. We want you to have fun listening too. This also means we might not be suitable for children. Oh yeah, and we spoil the end of all the movies we pod about. Thanks for listening.
Hi.
Hi.
Here we are.
Look at us.
Guys, we watched a movie.
We watched a movie.
In this case, we're talking about 1987's
Dragnet.
Dragnet.
I had fun watching this. I thought it was...
I thought you were going to save that for the end.
No, I'm saying I just want to... I was not bored.
Yeah.
And yet I could not stay awake.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to stop the movie halfway through so that I could make myself coffee
that's right.
because
I forgot about that.
I was literally like my head was like drooping. I was like my eyes were closing. Right. I was like literally falling asleep watching this.
I think I made some coffee too. Didn't
you did, but it didn't help. Like we watched this at like 6 p.m. and it ended at like 7:30, and I was like, oh my god! And we maybe stayed awake until 9:30.
Oh, was that the day?
Oh, that was the day. Yeah, I mean we'd had like a crazy day.
That
was a flat tire.
Yeah, it was after the weekend of dealing with the flat.
No, it was the day that we had the flat tire. We were like, oh, let's go.
Oh, it was not even the day we picked it up.
Nope.
Yeah, you're right.
It was literally because we spent all day waiting because they said it was going to be
ready. A
full
week ago.
Yeah, I know. Over a week ago.
Jesus.
I know, right? This is why, you know. Fuck.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
It's my fault.
I just... it was not that I didn't enjoy the film, though.
No,
it was like... Because you kept being like, we can put something else on if you're not. Right. And I was like, if we put anything else on, I will just go to sleep. For sure fall asleep, yeah. Like, I was enjoying myself. I just could not. But yeah, Dragnet, 1987. Which seemed... I don't want to say it seemed later than 87 because it's not like I could put a timestamp on it, but it didn't seem as dated as...
No, so a lot of other things from the period.
Right, yeah.
The flavor of copaganda that it is very timeless.
Right, yeah.
I guess that helps because it's rooted in a television series from the 60s.
True.
It's the original copaganda.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
I like set my notes on the floor and then I was like, where did I put
I want to do some credits.
Okay.
I mean, if you're unaware of this film, I guess that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about it before I referred to it?
Yeah, it's not something that was fresh in my mind, but I'd seen pieces of it. I think it would come on TV when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The TV version.
Yeah. This was one of mine because I remembered loving it. I
can see why.
Junior high, I think is.
It makes sense.
I'm sure I watched it multiple times. I feel like it's probably something. There's a period in my late junior high age when I was having sleepover parties.
Ooh!
And this would have been the kind of movie that I would have begged my mom to rent.
Yeah. Sorry.
So we've got Dan.
I have to edit that because I just hit the microphone.
Dan Aykroyd as Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Nephew of the great Joe Friday from the television series. So it's in the same universe.
Right.
Tom Hanks as Pep Strebeck.
Oh my God.
Harry Morgan, who was on the original television show, reprising his role as Gannon. He's now their CEO. Alexandra Paul as the Virgin Connie Swale. Oh my God. Jack O'Halloran as Emil Muzz.
Oh my God.
Who, I said this during the movie, like, in my mind, it was the same guy who played Jaws from the the Bond movies, whose name is something. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Ashley. Dabney Coleman plays fucking Jerry Caesar, who's clearly modeled after Hugh Hefner.
I wrote down Dabney Coleman, whether he's the villain, he's going to be a bad guy because he always is. Like, I've never seen a movie where Dabney Coleman did not turn out to be, if not the main villain, just
an asshole.
Just the next in line asshole.
Got his part in Clifford. So good.
So good. He's so good at it too, but like not in the sense of like, oh, he's so good at making you hate him. He's just like so perfectly, I don't know. There's just something about Dabney Coleman playing the asshole that works. You're like, that's funny. Yeah. Oh, didn't he? Oh, I forgot he had that
and
weird
also
lisp.
In a comedic way. Yes, I was going to bring that up. What the fuck? He's got a lisp, and he's doing like a Southern accent. I think he said he modeled it on a Louisiana accent.
Yeah, it's about time. I called you cops 3 hours ago.
I want to mention Kathleen Freeman, who's the landlady, Muzz's landlady, who when they go and question her, she's just, it's a string of amazing insults.
Oh my God, I forgot
it's like
about
the
that.
only foul language in the movie.
Useless scumlapping shitbag.
Just the facts, ma'am. He leave anything else behind?
Yeah, tape deck, which I had to sell to make up for the lost rent, so there's nothing you can do about it, you slimy little jizz bucket.
And Christopher Plummer's in there. I don't even remember him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the priest.
Yeah.
That's
he's
right.
The villain.
Okay. Directed by Tom Mankiewicz, who I didn't check this. I think there's like a L.A. Hollywood Mankiewicz dynasty.
Oh.
I think. Written by Dan Aykroyd, Alan Zwiebel, Tom Mankiewicz, and Jack Webb, who is credited because he was the original Joe Friday.
Oh.
Dragnet. It's got a wild ass
plot.
There's the Art of Noise track.
Oh yeah.
From this, but then there's also the rap.
Oh God.
At the end.
Oh God.
City of Crime or whatever.
Oh God.
Yeah. Which is basically like the Michael Scarn.
Oh God. No. Oh fuck. Oh no.
Let's see. I'm gonna go to the soundtrack. Oh, there's also Just the Facts, performed by Patti LaBelle.
Oh, wow.
Which I don't recall.
I read this. It said Just the Facts, ma'am, was never actually said in the TV series.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? But I'm like, are they saying like,
Just
the Facts, ma'am, were never said?
Right.
Or because I swear I heard Just the Facts. I was like, I don't know. I swear I've heard that.
I feel like it's got to be one of those, like, play it again, Sam.
Yeah.
Like, that's not actually what was said.
Right. He just says play it again. Yeah. If you don't...
there's also one Peter Aykroyd mentioned on the soundtrack. I'm sure that's a coincidence.
So let's talk, Keith. Let's talk about why we...
You want to rap?
Let's talk about why we chose this film.
Oh. I thought I did.
Well, you said...
it was one of mine.
Yeah.
I suggested it. I remembered it fondly. You know, I also... At this point, we've covered... I don't know, at least half the movies we've done could be considered either outright propaganda like legal system propaganda. Right. You know, like.
But didn't you say? I think you mentioned it on another pod that we did. From season 1.
Remember way back there?
That was you said you watched a YouTube series that like talked about.
Oh,
this. Yeah. What's that called?
The channel's called Skip Intro.
Okay.
I mean, he changed the name, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I think. But anyway, yeah, last summer he produced a whole series on cop shows that are specifically with the lens of copaganda. Dragnet, the television series, was like the first one that was produced, and this is the TV show. I don't know about the radio serial because
I didn't know it was a radio serial.
Yeah, apparently. You know, it's got this opening that like these are true stories. The names of the have been changed to protect the innocent. That kind of thing. That comes from Dragnet, and it was produced hand in hand with the LAPD of the time. Like the idea was they would give stories, actual crimes committed to the studio or the writers or whomever in exchange for, making sure they looked good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, they do they do that little joke at the beginning of the movie. Where they're like, the names have been changed, and they're like, and then they do something.
They're like, for instance, Francis Dietrich
has been
changed to
Tom
Elisa,
Jerry.
Whatever. Which is it? I gotta say, that feels like a Zucker Abrams kind of joke, like the producers of the Naked Gun movies.
Oh yeah. I used to watch Dragnet as a kid, like the TV show.
I'm sure I've seen it, but I never watched it with any kind of.
Yeah, I think it was like one of my first I really enjoy. I hate that this is the case, but I like procedurals. I really enjoy them.
Appealing.
Like loved Law and Order.
Gunk, gunk.
Oh God, and like the original Law and Order. It was so watchable. And it was on for so fucking long, and it was really interesting, and I liked it. And Dragnet, I felt like it was from the 60s, but it had like a similar feel to it was just
clearly is the model for so many things that are still around.
Them just like doing I don't know. I'm just like, oh, this is so watchable.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I forgot that I when we were playing, I was like, yeah, I watched this as a kid, but also the movie. I was surprised at there's tits in the movie. They're in the scene where they're in the strip club, and there's just a stripper
yeah.
And because Dan Aykroyd is where do I go to get a good cup of coffee? And Tom Hanks is like, oh, I know just the place. And then they're at a strip club, and it's stupid, but
yeah.
It's and there's a lot of stuff in it, sex and things and
it's a little
dirty
surprising.
Language, and I was like, what?
Because it feels like
it's very rated R. It's very rated R, and I was not expect. I think there's a lot of F words in it. A lot more than I thought there were. I didn't think there was gonna be any cursing, and there's fuck words in it, and I was like, what? And for whatever reason,
it feels like it's gonna be it feels like a PG-13 movie or something.
Yeah, that. I thought it was gonna. Yeah.
And it's kind of the tone of it is
so wild,
because the sense of humor is such that you're in on the joke that Aykroyd's Friday is a caricature,
Right.
Because he's so straight-laced and
and
you're immediately, they're not trying to play him.
Right.
It's not supposed to be believable,
Yeah.
As
right.
a by-the-books guy, he's supposed to be clearly a satire of.
Right.
So the tone is.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's got a weird tone.
Yeah.
I appreciated that
it almost feels like a kid's movie because of that. Because you have a very stark, obvious caricature.
Yes.
I think.
Right.
I think that's why.
Yeah. Something. It just feels like. Plus, I feel like, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, most of those remakes, they tried to make them family friendly because they were stuff from the 60s and 70s and things. and they were like nostalgic things that people either watched with their kids or could watch with their kids. And so I think they tried to make them less rated R. They wanted to make them more, you know, for everyone. And this definitely feels like it was not it was like almost presented as such, but definitely not treated as such. So I was just surprised. I was like, oh my God, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's titties.
Yeah.
Like the strip club scene, I was really like, what? I think I was like, what? I was like very much like just floored by that. I was like, I was like, that might have been the part where I was like, maybe I haven't seen this movie before. Because I thought I'd seen some of it. And I was like, maybe not. Maybe, never mind. Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I will say I enjoyed, I thought at first I wasn't going to, but I think it actually works well. Because, like, I thought it was going to be, like, you know, just a remake of the original.
Yeah.
You know, just like two straight-laced cops, you know, doing voiceover.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's it. So I kind of enjoyed that it starts with Friday's partner retiring suddenly.
Buys a goat farm in Ukiah, which to me I appreciate it because I've been to Ukiah. I know where it is. Also, it's haiku spelled backwards.
Oh.
Northern California.
Wow. That's interesting. So then Tom Hanks comes on and he's just like, you know, the loosey-goosey, you know.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh man, this is going to not be fun. But I think it actually works. But it only works because it's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it's the two of them.
Work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work if it was.
And I gotta say, this is my favorite kind of Tom Hanks comedy. You know, I put it like with The Burbs, where he's doing like kind of physical comedy almost.
I know.
That's my favorite.
He was so good at like just having that dumb face, you know. Just I don't know. Tom Hanks is really good with like that. I know it was like improvised or whatever, and you could almost tell watching it, but that scene at the fucking end in The Burbs where he's like losing his fucking shit and he just grabs the ambulance bed and throws it in the back of the ambulance and then like literally just like lunges in and then it's like he like misses and it's just like, oh God, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's like the best part of the movie. And I was like, God, please let that be improvised. And it was. Yeah. And it was so, I was like, oh, so fucking
I feel like
funny.
that's when he's at his best comedically is when he's like just had enough.
Yes. Oh God, it's so funny. And he just
it didn't hold up, but we watched The Money Pit, remember? And like the shit where he's just laughing.
I have to say, what's her name? Shelley
Long.
Yeah. I have trouble.
Not a fan?
I just a lot of her delivery, like a lot of her stuff, I'm just like, ugh, I have like no patience for it. I'm not into it. I don't know. There's just something, I don't know. I just feel like she's just, this is probably unfair because I don't know where it's just my mental picture. I just feel like she's the person. This is like such projection. It's not even funny. I don't like her because of this idea I have of her that's probably not based in anything real. I just imagine that she's the person that's like, I don't want to say this joke because I'm too Christian for it. I know that's how she comes across. Well, that's basically
how her character on Cheers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. There's just something so I don't know. It's just like the uptight white woman. I'm just like, don't care.
Yeah.
Not funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Now she just reads as a Karen.
Yeah, I mean, basically. But, like, it wasn't, I don't know, just, like, it's hard for me to think she's funny because I just feel like everything she does just comes, it's like, it's the trope of, like, the uptight white woman is, like, her shtick. And I'm like, I don't find it funny and I don't care. And that's all she's doing, so I'm not interested.
Compare with Baby Newirth's Lilith, who's way...
I know. Like, she's, like, repressed white woman. I don't know. There's just something about.
Yeah.
Ugh. I mean, BB Newirth, though, God, she can do no wrong, and I fucking love her. She's so fucking hot. Like, it is upsetting how hot she is. Like, I remember, like, because, like, you know, I grew up watching, like, Cheers and or not really Cheers, but, like, you know, I'd see it every now and then, and, like, Frasier, for sure. And I would be, like, I remember, like, seeing her as Lilith and being like, oh, she's this like scary, you know, Morticia looking person or whatever. And then someone, I don't know, was like, I saw like an image of her like not as Lilith. And I was like, what? I'm like, oh my God. I was like, how did, you know, and then I realized like it's not, she doesn't actually look any different. Like Lilith is just as hot as like any other thing. It's just like they do such a good job of making her seem so like hateable in that like you don't really like when you're a kid you're just like, oh, you're supposed to hate her, but like when I realized she was an attractive person, I was like, dear God. I had no gay feelings whatsoever, so don't worry about that.
Okay, good.
But yeah, it was it was very yeah, she's just so fucking hot.
Also, we've
like,
been
upsetting.
Watching Frasier.
We have been watching Frasier. But
speaking
also,
of Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd.
Yes. No, but also because she was in Malice.
Malice.
All
what was it? All
ACABB Newirth. It made me think of it because we were talking about copaganda and
yeah.
This does like it's so weird. Like once you realize what copaganda is, like then you just see it everywhere. You're like, ooh.
Basically, anytime cops are portrayed.
Basically, anytime. I think the one movie that we watched that was like, it was oh God, what's that movie with Richard Gere?
Yep.
Whatever that. Oh fuck.
And Laura Linney, that one?
No, not Primal Fear.
Internal Affairs.
Yes, Internal Affairs. The one with Laurie Metcalf. Yes.
Check.
That one.
Check, please.
I feel like that one is the only one. Like that one was the one that was like closest to not being propaganda because it was like, hey, imagine a world where there are no good cops, and you're like, wait a minute, that is how it is, you know. And like,
well, except that Andy Garcia and Laurie Metcalf kind of are
sort of.
To be the
I mean, but
one
they,
good cop
but then
kind of
I mean,
thing.
like I think it truly in the film, Laurie Metcalf is the only one that like you don't actively see her doing anything criminal.
Correct.
Other than that, every single like because Andy Garcia like beats his fucking wife, and
that's not a crime. You know that.
And I spit all over my fucking...
Wait, I'm trying to remember who plays Baldwin's girlfriend, wife in that movie.
I don't remember. I don't know of her in anything else.
Never mind.
My mom. Will you pause because I have to pee. The world don't move.
You quoting one of my tracks?
Yes, I am. It's stuck in my head.
Nice. Thanks. Check out Professor Ping on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
And Spotify.
And in all of my YouTube videos.
Oh.
Because I sample Prof Ping all the time.
Preach.
Yelks. I mean, thanks for making music that I can...
It's totally normal to think things like, well, I'm sweating a lot sitting at home here in my apartment, not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing this thing, so I'll just practice being hot and sweaty. So then later, when I'm in a situation where I don't have the choice to leave it or take my clothes off, for instance, it won't be so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
good. Practice. Practice makes perfect. Which is a lot.
Check. What?
My favorite when I was a kid, I've talked about my friend's mom who would just like fall asleep at the wheel while driving me home on the interstate.
And then lock herself in her bedroom.
Lock herself in her bedroom. So my friend had brothers, and one of them I had such a crush on because he was very funny and he would always make me laugh. And, it's a thing, or it was a thing, I don't know if it's a thing anymore, where dudes do a lisp, and it's always funny to me. It's always humorous.
Really?
I don't know why. But here's the thing. I also...
a homophobe.
Yes. No, I also... I used to think it was something that I was like, oh, I just think it's really funny. But then I discovered that if somebody actually has a lisp, I'm also like, oh, hi. And it's just something So I find it like attractive and I just enjoy it in general. So that was a confusing thing where I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I would I slept with a guy with a lisp once, and I would like make him say words that would emphasize his lisp. He was like,
not fetishizing at all.
Nope, I'm perfect.
So, how'd you feel about Dabney Coleman in this movie?
It was fake and not interesting in a way that But so anyway, so my friend's brother was doing the lisp thing. He was just talking to his mom and doing a lisp, and she said, practice makes perfect.
Oh, no.
Which I was like, wow, that's very rude. To which he said, what are you talking about, Mom? And I pissed my pants laughing at that. It was so funny to me because...
Dabney Coleman describes the accent he used in this movie as Southeastern, a la, quote, Tennessee Williams, which I don't know why that's in quotes. Just Tennessee Williams is in quotes. That's a real person.
It is, but do we know what Tennessee Williams sounded like?
I don't.
Exactly.
So. Maybe he means like a character in a Tennessee Williams play.
Oh, yeah.
Which he also used in the movie Modern Problems. Only for this movie, he added the lisp.
But it's so weird the way it sounds. It's just so weird.
It's very comical.
Yeah, it's comical, but like you're like, what are you doing, buddy? That's the kind of comical it is. Anyway,
Is that it?
Oh, the part at the beginning. So it starts with like they're doing something with all of the not Playboy magazines, which are called Bait Mate is the name of it.
I never... Yeah. That was a joke that went over my head.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like hijacking a truck or something. I don't know. They're doing something with all the bait. I don't remember exactly what it is.
They burn them.
Falling asleep. Do they? Is that no? Because I don't know. But maybe they do burn them. Anyway, the fire marshal or like a cop walks up or something and asks. It's the guy that you thought was Jaws.
Yeah, Emil Muzz.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know, doing something, and a cop walks up and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And and I don't know. They have like a back and forth, and then he just gently pushes the cop, and the cop like falls down, and it's very like so like. Nothing. It's just he just like pushes the cop lightly, and the cop goes. And the next scene is the cop on the ground with just like blood all around his head. It was so fucking funny to me. I was like,
catch that.
What? Yeah, it was just like a pool of fucking blood under the cop's head, and he's just like, yeah. I'm like, what? Because he's just like lightly taps him, and then he's just like on the ground in a pool of his own blood. And I was like, that's such a subtle like. Anyway, it was really funny to me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I apparently wrote in my notes, this is the best pre-'89 Batman movie.
I wrote in the notes, Tom Hanks laugh.
Okay.
I don't know what.
All right.
I'm sure. I don't know. Yeah.
Were you thinking of The Money Pit?
No, I don't remember. I didn't remember that we'd watched The Money Pit until you mentioned it.
You're welcome.
Successfully blocked that out of my mind.
Not to, bore everyone by staying on copaganda. I do want to say that, like, this movie is more, I think, insidious a little bit because it's kind of lampshading. Like, because the cops, the characters are pretty goofy, and the antics are hilarious, and, like, you get some of the politics of the police, like the chief of police is somehow a civilian. That was weird. And so you get some politics about, like, she just wants things to look good, and she's in bed with the priest, Christopher Plummer, who's behind, spoilers, behind this.
All the things going on.
But, so the goofiness of it kind of lampshades the, like...
But it was like interesting because it, like, I didn't exactly know how to feel about it because, like, obviously it didn't, I don't know, it didn't, like, it was weird because it felt like it was almost critiquing, like, religion and, like, like, there was I didn't quite understand. I mean, some of it was, yes, I was falling asleep and it was a little bit hard. But I, like, the part where, like, so they're, like, doing all these, like, terrorism, quote unquote, things where they're just, like, I don't know. They were, like, doing things and I didn't quite understand. Like, oh, they rob a zoo.
You're talking about pagan?
Pagan, I guess. Yeah.
Which, by the way, hilarious to me.
Yeah.
Which stands for People Against Goodness and Nicety. That slayed me as a kid.
No, it's good. And yeah, they're just basically, like, taking
stealing shit.
Yeah, they're stealing shit. Like,
they steal the snake for the sacrifice.
Yeah, they steal the snake. They steal like
cars.
Yeah, something. It's like all kinds of
stuff. They steal cop cars.
Yeah,
and they
steal
impersonate
cars and impersonate cops. Which is interesting because they don't go into enough detail about that, in my opinion. I'm like, Anyway, yeah, it was just... so they're doing a lot of mayhem. They're creating mayhem. But then you find out that the person, Dabney Coleman's character, who's, like, the Hugh Hefner of the movie or whatever, is, like, you find out that the person behind it is actually this priest, this, like, famous, like, priest or whatever, who is creating all this mischief.
And he's kind of
he's like a celebrity.
He's not quite a televangelist, but he's clearly a personality.
He's evangelical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
in the 80s, this was, by this time that, all the scandals of, like, the Bakers and Jimmy,
I don't know, Jerry Falwell?
Jerry Falwell, yeah.
Anyway.
Jimmy Fallon. Jerry Falwell.
So you find out they're, like, in bed together or whatever. Yeah. They're, like, because...
Yeah, I don't remember this plot.
It was, like, because, like... I thought, like, he was stealing a bunch magazines to distribute to people for free or something.
If I remember, it's basically the dynamic that, like, as embodied in Christopher Plummer's character, like, you create an enemy,
yes,
so that to fight it, both sides benefit.
Correct. Yes,
and it's a cycle,
right?
That is financially beneficial to both sides.
How do you see yourself going down in history, mister? Pagan, a reverend, devil, or angel?
Why, both, of course. One can't exist without the other. Without the Jerry Caesars, there'd be no moral outrage. And what's the good of moral outrage unless you have something tangible to direct it against?
Yeah, which was interesting to me, and I was like, this is very, very... Yeah, it's true. Almost. I mean, like...
Yeah.
there is a very, like, specific thing that, like, religion, like, especially, like, Christian religion, or mainly white Christian religion does in, you know, making things evil, taking while benefiting and participating in it at the same time. So that was like a critique, but that was like as far as it went. It was like, oh, they're so bad because they're benefiting off of each other. And it was like, okay, but that's it? That's all we're getting? It's just like...
Yes, right. It's very simplistic.
Yeah, and it was like really weird to me that that's as far as it went. But then, like, the cops were in on, like, or you said like the chief of police.
Yeah, I think that's who she's supposed to be.
And it's like, she's in on it, but like, but like none of the cops are. And I'm like,
right.
You know, like all of this stuff where they have like all of these things where they're like infiltrating like the police. They're, you know, like all these things that are happening. And it's like, but the cops are good. And I was like,
right.
Well, it was very, I was like, I feel strange. But not even in the sense of like, oh, I don't feel, I'm like, did it get rewritten or something? Like, did they, because it doesn't make sense to the plot that like so many people, there's so many players in this, and there's so many people that are
this
like
vast
the actual,
conspiracy.
But all the cops are just fine. I'm like,
I mean, and there's barely any, you don't really see any other cops outside of Friday and Strebeck and Gannon, their CO.
Yeah.
Are there other people in the force?
Right.
Presumably.
And but it was just like, that was like a thing where I was like, oh, it, like the end felt very flat to me.
Yeah.
In that way, where I was like, there's not enough of something going on. Like, it's just like, oh, the guy gets the girl. Like, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, well, not speaking of. Yeah, well, and I wrote, it ends on a virgin joke. I don't remember what it is, but.
He says, because they call her the Virgin Connie Swale.
That's right.
And he says, I spent the night with Connie Swale. And Tom Hanks says, you mean the Virgin Connie Swale? And Dan Aykroyd just looks at him and he's like, you know, he's like, oh my God, you know, implying that she's not a virgin anymore because he can't, you know, he's not calling her that, which is like so gross because I'm like, imagine your moniker or whatever, like how you're being addressed is the Virgin. I was like, this is so gross to me. Also, something, I wrote this in my notes and it was like, I didn't remember that until I was like, I was like, why are her cheeks and nose so red? And I was like, what? Oh, right. It was like she just was constantly like so blushed, like her nose and like cheeks were just so red all of the time. And it was like, I don't know if they were trying to make her look flushed to make her look innocent or something, but like, constantly, I was like, why? And it was just like, it wasn't like, yeah, it was just like every scene. That's how, like, everything, like her face was red.
Yeah, I guess to make her look.
Yeah, it was weird.
Virginal.
Also, there's a scene where, like, one of the, I think, where he's confronting, he's confronting, I think, Christopher Plummer in the bathroom. And Christopher Plummer, they show, like, the outside view of the stall, and he, like, pulls his pants down, sits down. So that means, you know, he's pooping.
Number twos.
He's going a doo-doos. And then he comes out of the stall and just leaves the bathroom. And I'm like, no.
Doesn't flush or anything?
He did. No, he might flush. I don't remember if he... drag racing, I guess.
Maybe.
I don't remember if he flushes, but he definitely doesn't wash his hands. And I'm like, you just doo-dooed in a stall. And then you just like left without washing your hands. This is how you spread the coronavirus and every other disease out there. This is how.
Remember how Tom Hanks and his wife were the first ones to get it?
Well, Tom Hanks didn't do it. He wasn't in that scene, but
still, I put this in the trivia. Christopher Plummer doesn't wash his hands after poopsings, and that's why Tom Hanks. And Lisa, is that what's his wife? Rita Wilson got COVID.
Her last name is the Ball.
Oh, shit. That's also going in the trivia. Tom Hanks and Rita have Wilson in common. Oh, who's calling?
I just lightly farted. Gentle fart. Well, my phone went off and then I gentle fart.
Like another thing is a recurring gag is the battering ram tank.
Oh, yeah.
That is just a tank, but instead of a, like fucking cannon coming out of it, it's just a long arm with a square at the end of it that says "Have a nice day" and that
right.
and the LAPD shield badge thing on it, which I feel like is a reference to something more specific than I remember, but because I feel like at the time watching it, I'm like, oh, I get it, LAPD, but it's clearly like definitely a reference to the increased militarization of police at the time, and like I tried to look things up about particularly the LAPD in the 80s and what, because there's been lots of scandals from the LAPD over the years. But the big ones I know about were like there's one in the late 90s, the Rampart Station scandal, and then all the shit around Rodney King, but that was the early 90s. That was 4 years after this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I watched some kind of weird documentary on YouTube that's just like footage of cops in the late 70s.
Jesus.
And
oh, is that what you were watching yesterday?
Yeah. And, I don't have anything to add. I didn't gain much insight that I didn't have already, but like except that clearly there was a push towards policing gang violence and, drugs and arms trades. So I'm those were and part of the Rampart scandal of the 90s was that there was a anti-gang task force that apparently these cops were involved in. That was
right.
Correct.
Oh, is that the one where like they just got like people just got flagged left and right for shit and they weren't like even remotely doing anything?
I'm sure that happened, but
I can't remember.
That specific scandal was about, and I don't know. I've heard conflicting things about what actually happened, of course, but it was basically cops running drugs. And,
I see.
Weapons from within.
Weird.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
There's also there's a weird thing with Strebeck's TV watch. It's weird only because why is that in there?
Also, it was like, I read in the trivia that they're like, that's a real watch.
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay.
That's the only reason I brought it up.
What?
And then the joke about the Yugo.
What? I don't remember.
Well, first of all, Yugo was a real car.
Oh, it's a
produced in Yugoslavia, which that's another history that I want to learn more about, because Yugoslavia was communist, but not specifically did not want to be supported by the USSR. And they formed after World War II, I think. Anyway, I got to do research, but
okay.
Because it's an outlier, everybody wants to point to the Soviet Union as why communism doesn't work. And blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah. Ugh.
I'll point to the U.S. as how communism doesn't work, because we attacked and did regime change in every country that even smelled like socialism.
Yeah.
Oh, you're nationalizing some resource?
Give me that. Give me that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all before. But there's a joke in here about the Yugo, because Strebeck is talking about, like I think Friday and Connie Swale go on a date or something. Mm-hmm. And there's a joke about where we hear Strebeck's voiceover. He was like, and while it's physically impossible to have sex in a Yugo.
Oh.
Because they were small, compact cars.
Aw. That's funny. It is.
Thanks.
I was telling you.
Shout out to the Yugo. The only other note I have is about the scene when they get food and Friday gets 2 chili dogs and Strebeck gets a veggie platter.
He just gets a plate of fruit and that's his lunch. I'm like, you're going to be hungry
and
again
diabetic
in 13 seconds. Like, I can't.
But it's funny because
you think it's going to be the other way, but I guess, yeah, I thought it was going to be the other way around. And it just...
because I feel like culturally that's shifted.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Let me tell you something, mister. Unlike you outside of cigarettes, I only have one vice, and a good chili dog is it. So please pipe down and let me enjoy my lunch in peace.
Okay.
I wrote down, Tom Hanks in this movie is Keith after one alcoholic beverage or when he's had too much sugar.
Je t'accuse.
There is one scene where they are in a milk factory.
Oh,
to which I said, I've seen this porno.
Badoom. Pish.
Get it? Because milk is so prevalent in porn, and I don't know why.
Hey, also, season 1 of Westworld.
Or just the first few episodes.
Yeah, that's
really.
true. The guy just pouring milk on everything.
That's a fun aside.
That whole sequence is pretty fun.
That sequence in the movie.
In the movie.
In the movie Dragnet.
In the movie Dragnet, 1987. Starring Dan
That
Aykroyd
is,
and Tom Hanks.
I think that sequence is funny. And Tom Hanks being like,
oh, that's right. You fucking...
yeah.
I had to go back to show you because you miss it. It's so quick.
It's so funny. Anyway. So yeah, that's something. Oh, and I do want to say I appreciated the fact there's a scene where
oh, thank God, vibrator repair.
Huh? What'd you say?
Oh, thank God, vibrator repair. Remember that joke?
I don't. Is that in Dragnet?
Yeah. When they first arrive at the mate compound.
Oh. Strebeck is in bed with a woman. And she's like kind of...
Oh, yeah.
He like wakes up with her and she's kind of like, getting all nuzzly. And he reaches over to his box of condoms and it is empty. And he is like, can't do anything. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Safe sex, kids.
Yeah. I was like, oh, all right. That's cool. I feel like that's something that's like just doesn't...
Condoms don't even come up anymore.
I know. I mean, I get it, but I just use a condom. It's not weird. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I feel like they get such bad raps. I mean, yeah.
They are wrapped poorly. Hey-oh.
Ba-dum-dum.
Badoosh.
Anyway. So would you recommend this film?
Sure.
Yeah.
With the
right context.
Yeah, I'm never going to... There's so few movies that I would recommend without any kind of, caveats.
Yeah.
But if you know this is from 1987, it's basically copaganda.
Right. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. Yeah. And I said, I was falling asleep watching it and I was like pissed because I was like, I'm having fun watching this movie, So that was difficult for me. But yeah, I don't know that I would recommend it, but I wouldn't tell someone not to watch it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't not recommend it.
The things that I remember being funny about it, I still found funny for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So
the only thing I think that I didn't enjoy was that I felt like the plot of it all was very confusing.
Yeah.
I think that if they hadn't tried to have a convoluted plot, it would have actually benefited a lot from it.
Yeah.
They just do a lot of conspiracy stuff that doesn't really come to anything.
Right.
So it's like, what? And again,
that's sort of the propaganda of it.
Yeah, the cops are fine. The cops, they get literally kicked off the force.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we were wrong. You're great. That's it. And I was like, what? So that was like a thing where I was like, I don't understand. And like, but like they get kicked off the force and then it's just like, oh, whoops, we didn't mean to do that. And then I was like expecting the cops to be in on it and they weren't. And that was very confusing and didn't make a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Especially with how much they didn't want to listen to them about everything they had to say.
Yeah, right.
And then the cops are fine. So I was like, what? What's happening here? So that was my only real complaint about it.
Thank God it's Friday! Hi, everybody! It's me, Pep! Good to see you!
This might be a good compare and contrast with what's it called, The Other Guys? With Will Ferrell.
Oh, yeah. That was what I liked about that one was all of the statistics they give at the end.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. Yeah. They're like, here's the stats for like cops and their budget and what they do and like what, and you're like, whoa. Yeah, and it's literally just being like, they're pieces of shit. So yeah, that was definitely.
Yeah, that was a surprise one. Shout out to Flota because he showed me that movie.
Yeah. Thanks, Flota. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all for Dragnet. We have a Patreon now.
Yeah, go. It's patreon.com/Z&K pod.
Boosh.
So, Poopy Outdoor Dog.
Gmail. Send us.
Yeah, you can email us.
We're now accepting suggestions.
Yes, you can suggest
priority given to
anyone.
Patreons.
Yeah. Yes, anyone from our Patreon. If you are a patron and you suggest a movie, we will put that at the head of the list.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Making promises.
Yeah, I am. But that just means the head of our watch list. That does not mean that it will be the next thing that we put out.
Not the head of our to-do list, okay? I gotta bathe and feed myself.
No, what I'm saying is it takes us sometimes a couple like
yes.
we record these weekly, but we recorded a bunch before we started putting them out, right. So we were backlogged, so we have
on purpose.
A lot. Yes. We did that for a reason. So we are in no way caught up to like what you hear is like weeks behind where we actually are. So if you suggest something and we put it at the front of the list, that doesn't mean it's going to be the next thing you hear.
Right.
It just means it's going to be the next thing we watch, which might take a month or two to get out. But that's fine. You're fine with that.
Wait 2 to 12 weeks. Z.and.k.pod at Gmail if you want to
send us an email, let us know how we're doing.
Yeah. No,
let us know. No, don't tell us.
Rate and review on Apple Pods.
Yeah, give a review on Apple Pods.
Somehow, I guess we'll never know, but Primal Fear has become our most listened to episode at, last I checked, 25 listens.
Damn. I wonder if
everything else since has been maxed out at like 4.
Yeah.
So, thanks. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
We got a bump somewhere that I was unaware of, But
yeah.
Anyway, thanks.
Yeah.
And
Richard Gere was like, "Hey, check this out."
Yeah.
And we got 25 people who listened to it.
I just assume it was because the title was shitting on Ed Norton.
Well,
a little bit. So
that's always.
But yes, I am told, I do hear other podcasters say frequently that it does make a difference if you rate and rate and review the pods on Apple Podcasts. So
yeah, please do that.
Just go over there and hit 2 stars or whatever. It doesn't even have to be a good review, probably.
No, give us a good review, please. I can't handle it if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to read them.
a good review.
I know, which I couldn't see.
Really?
When I checked.
Aww.
Anyway.
Aww.
And also we're on Instagram.
Yes, at, what are we? Instagram.com/ZNKpod, I think. I think we're pretty standard ZNKpod. Anchor.fm/ZNKpod.
Ooh.
Yeah. You can check out our podcast. Obviously, you probably know what the podcast is if you're listening, but if you want to know, if you're listening on Spotify and you don't want to listen on Spotify, go to anchor.fm/ZNKpod.
We're on a bunch of other platforms.
Lots of different
too that nobody uses.
Yep.
Well, I guess somebody uses them according to our analytics. Anyway, okay, thanks for listening.
Thank you. We'll see
Talk to you later.
Next time. We'll see you
I'll
next
let
time.
you let me go.
See you never.
Just the facts if you don't mind, ma'am.